Welcome to the first spreadsheet in financial modelling, week 1 spreadsheet, basic Excel and dividend discount model. I've opened the spreadsheet to the first worksheet, which is the address worksheet. And you'll notice at the top, there's a green box. In cell B1 I've put my name, and in cell B2 I have put my email address, and you must do the same when you work with these spreadsheets and save them. You'll notice that there are blue areas, and they're the areas that we're going to work with. This spreadsheet is about teaching the difference between relative, absolute, and mixed addressing, which is a fundamental concept in spreadsheets. You can see that what we're going to do is calculate the difference between the weekly return and the mean return for two stocks A, B, C, and stock D, E, F. This first example is looking at the difference between the return in the first week of stock ABC and the mean return in green. And you can see that the mean return, cell C14, has no dollars in front of it, and it's known as a relative addressing. Now if we move over to the next block and hit F2, you can see now that the cell C14 has got a dollar in front of the C and a dollar in front of the 14. That's absolute addressing. And if we look at the next blue block, we have an example of mixed addressing. That is, the mean return for stock ABC, there's no dollar in front of the C, but there is a dollar in front of the 14. What's the difference between these three? How does having a dollar or not on one or the other make a difference when we copy and paste? Well, let's have a look. If I copy this over and across, will I get, for the relative addressing, will I get the correct answer for the stock ABC in the stock DEF? So if I go to cell D19 and I hit F2, you can see that indeed I do get the correct answer. In the first week I do subtract the first week's return minus the mean return for stock DEF. So it appears to be working. But what if I look at the second week for stock ABC, or in fact DEF? Well, if I hit F2 now, you can see that the green box is actually below the mean return. The relative addressing has not retained the correct address or the correct cell when I've copied down, unfortunately. And that will create an error. What about for the absolute addressing? If I copy this over and down, do I get the correct answer? Well, if I look at cell DEF, the answer is no. There's a mistake. Because I've got a dollar in front of the C, I will continue to focus or look at the column C no matter where I copy this cell. So, unfortunately, the column C is about the stock ABC, not the stock DEF, and so that induces an error. What about if I look at the mixed addressing? Remember, with the mixed addressing, there's no dollar in front of the C, but there is a dollar in front of the 14. That means, well, let's see. I'll copy it over. And do I get the correct answer now? For DEF? Yes, I do. I'm looking at cell D5 and I'm subtracting cell D14. That's correct. What about for the second row? I'm now looking at cell D6. I've moved to the down one step, which is correct. And over one step to look at cell D$14 for the mean return. By having that dollar there in front of the 14, I'm always going to look at row 14, but by not having the dollar in front of the C, I'm not going to look at the column C all the time. It'll depend on where I copy this particular cell. And that is the difference between relative, absolute, and mixed addressing, and that is why it's very important to pay attention to the addressing type when we're copying cells across spreadsheets.